Hello, and welcome to our next podcast in our Tribulation series. If you've not watched the previous ones, please do so now, as this one builds on topics that were presented in the others. With this podcast, we're going to focus primarily on three things. Number one, the Antichrist. Who is he? Where does he come from? How does he rise to power? And how will the world initially recognize him? It was in December of 2021 where Prince Charles said, quote, "He is already on the global scene calling the shots from behind closed doors." If that doesn't give you chills, then nothing else will. Yes, we Christians are that close to going home to be with the Lord. Number two, the false prophet, the Antichrist's chief propagandist. What role does he play in the Antichrist's life? How does he help make the world believe the Antichrist is a man of goodwill and peaceful intentions? Number three, the one world religion. In a podcast we produced in November of 2021 and available on this podcast channel, we showed the current Pope meeting with representatives of the other major religions from around the globe to unite as one religion. Some global religion worship campuses have already been built and more are in the process of being assembled. So essentially, the one world religion is here now. But of course it needs more time to grow and expand into how the Bible describes it will be during the tribulation. So let's get started.
The identity of the Antichrist has been speculated about now for a long time. Even though the Bible does not tell us exactly who the Antichrist is, the Scriptures are very clear on what traits and characteristics he will possess, when he will come onto the world stage, and what he will do once he takes power. Revelation 13:2 tells us that the dragon gave the beast his power, his throne, and great authority. The dragon is Satan, and it is Satan that empowers the Antichrist, and he will have supernatural abilities.
He will become very strong, but not by his own power. He will cause astounding devastation, and will succeed in whatever he does. He will destroy the mighty men and the holy people. He will cause deceit to prosper, and he will consider himself superior. When they feel secure, he will destroy many, and take his stand against the Prince of Princes. Yet he will be destroyed, but not by human power.
He will present himself as an alluring leader at first. He will be super, not ordinary. Everything about the Antichrist will be extraordinary. He will possess great eloquence, charm, wit, military genius, vision, and intelligence. He will be extremely influential, charismatic, a false champion of peace, and will possess strong leadership abilities. One could even say he's a rock star. Daniel 8:23-24 tells us that the Antichrist will be a king with fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences, which means he will be deeply involved in the occult mysteries. He will be filled with satanic power and later will become possessed by Satan. He will be extremely powerful and lethal. Whoever opposes him will be destroyed. Daniel 11:37 tells us something interesting about him. Not having the desire for women. Could this mean he is a hybrid? Possibly, but I believe this is telling us he is a homosexual. We are also told he will have no regard for the gods of his fathers. On the surface, this does seem to mean that he has no regard for Christianity or any other religion. However, from Daniel 8, we know that he is deeply satanic. He will not be agnostic. He will be of Satan and will worship him and later indwelled by him. I do believe we are being told more here than just the obvious, but I don't know what it is, and would be merely guessing as to the deeper meaning here. We also know that he will be a Gentile and not a Jew. The Bible tells us that he will arise out of the sea. In the Bible, the sea is the term used to describe the Gentile nations, while the land is used to describe Israel. So where will he come from? Daniel 9:26 tells us that he will either rise out of the old Roman Empire, or his lineage will be that from the area of the old Roman Empire.
After the 62 sevens, the Anointed One will be cut off, and will have nothing. The people of the ruler who will come will destroy the city and the sanctuary. The end will come like a flood. War will continue until the end, and desolations have been decreed.
The prince that shall come will come out of the people who shall destroy the city. It was Rome and its legions that destroyed Jerusalem in 70 AD. So we know that the prince that shall come must come out of the Roman Empire and people, and his seat of power will at least initially be in Europe. Some believe he will be Muslim and come from Syria. I do not believe this to be the case. The Antichrist will have a right-hand man. He is known in the Bible as the false prophet. Under and with the authority of the Antichrist, He will be the implementer and enforcer of much of the evil that will be brought about by Satan. From Revelation 13, 11 through 12, and 19 through 20, we know a few things about the false prophet. 1. Many scholars believe he will be Jewish because John says he comes up out of the earth rather than the sea. 2. He had horns like a lamb. Jesus is referred to in the Gospels as the Lamb of God. Lambs do not have horns, which are a symbol of authority. Lambs are meek and mild animals. Jesus said in the Sermon on the Mount, "Watch out for false prophets. They will come like lambs, but inwardly they will be ferocious as wolves." The false prophet will come to Israel in sheep's clothing, but God calls him a beast. 3. He spoke like a dragon. Tells us that he will derive his powers of speech from Satan, who is the dragon. This false prophet will then deceive people by acting like a lamb, but he will really be speaking the words of Satan. Satan is not against religion. He is, however, against a personal faith and relationship with Jesus Christ. Therefore, the false prophet will most likely be one of the chief spokesmen for the one-world religion spoken of in Revelation 17. 4. He will exercise all of the authority of the first beast on his behalf. The false prophet will be given power from the Antichrist. 5. He made the earth, and all of its inhabitants worship the first beast. The false prophet's basic purpose and operation, with power from the Antichrist and the power of speech from Satan, will be to drive people to worship the Antichrist. No false teacher from the past or present has possessed the supernatural power that the false prophet will have. During the tribulation period, the Antichrist and the false prophet will have the power to perform counterfeit miracles, signs, and wonders.
The coming of the lawless one will be in accordance with the work of Satan, displayed in all kinds of counterfeit miracles, signs, and wonders, and in every sort of evil that deceives those who are perishing.
It does not come as any surprise that the false prophet will be able to reproduce nearly everything that the two witnesses will be able to do. The Apostle John foretold that the Antichrist will be assassinated with a wound to the head or neck, and then satanically resurrected at the midpoint of tribulation. During the first 3.5 years of tribulation, the Antichrist will present himself as a world leader that is a Messiah-type figure who is an economical, political, and military genius. However, after his resurrection, he will claim to be God. The false prophet will then demand that everyone on earth worship this resurrected Antichrist as God by taking his mark. Part of the deception perpetrated by the false prophet will be his power to give life to the image of the beast. The word the Bible uses is where we get our modern word icon for image. It means a representation derived from a prototype or a perfect likeness. It looks like the real thing, but it isn't. The false prophet will have an image of the Antichrist created and demand that it will be worshipped. If you do not, you will be killed. By some mysterious means, unknown in the previous history of the world, he will give life to the image. We know how he will do that now. It will be done through artificial intelligence. The seat of power for the Antichrist will be a global government that will be centered in Europe, and it will have the world divided into 10 regions. And the one world religion will not only be the propaganda arm of this government, but it will also be at its inner circle, at least initially. There will come a time during the Great Tribulation, which is the second half of tribulation, that the Antichrist will turn on this religion and destroy it, because at that point he will be indwelled with Satan, and Satan will not share power with anything or anyone. The one world religion will be an amalgamation of all the religions under the Catholic Church. It will be intermingled with this world government. This is most likely not news to you, as you are seeing this happen with your own eyes. 2,000 years ago, the Bible told us that in the last days during tribulation, there would be a one world religion. Ladies and gentlemen, with your own eyes, you have just seen that prophecy fulfilled. Its headquarters will be completed in just a few short months. In preparation for this, political leaders from all countries and religious leaders from all religions assemble to sign a proclamation to join the one world religion.
So now we will proceed with the signing ceremony of the Unity of Religion Agreement. The Unity of Religion Agreement is a groundbreaking promise of religions to unite unconditionally and without discrimination to achieve true peace. I would like to call upon the following religious leaders to come up to the stage and join us for the signing of the ceremony of the Unity of Religions Agreement. And as a united religion, to leave a world at peace as a legacy for our future generations to come. Ladies and gentlemen, I will now recite the agreement to propose the enactment of an international law which has been signed by our former heads and current heads of states and also lawmakers. As people born in this era, it is our duty to end all wars of this generation and to establish world peace. We must unite in heart and will leave peace as an eternal legacy for our future generations. We, as the former heads of states, chief justices, and representatives of the United Nations, will do everything within our power to enact an international law for the cessation of wars on this globe and the creation of world peace. We, the current heads of states, sign the proposed international law to end all wars and establish world peace for all nations, people, and peace. Our purpose is to educate all levels of society, organizations, and educational institutions to mutually collaborate for the enactment of the international law to make a peace a reality. I hereby sign this agreement in sight of God, all the people of the world, and the peace advocates. I consent to this proposed agreement for the heritage of global peace. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, this is a very historical moment.
Now, you may be trying to convince yourself that this is some sort of symbolic thing, but it's not. At this point, the one world religion is now here, and it is now a reality. The question now is of level of enforcement. Right here, right now, these are only agreements, but after the completion of the one world headquarters, the Vatican will be turning its attention to the enforcement. Think back at all you have just seen. I would encourage you to watch this again because as shocking as this may seem, it is now a reality.
A One World Religion Center. The plans have now been unveiled in New York, and they are planning to break ground soon. Images and video have now been released for the Abrahamic Family House in New York. The plans will include a mosque, a church, and a synagogue, and were decreed by the Higher Committee of Human Fraternity. We Love Trump reports that the Bible is very clear when it comes to the great apostasy that is to come to the earth in the last days, and it appears as if we are in the midst of it. In 1 Timothy, the Bible says, "Now the Spirit expressly says that in the latter times some will depart from the faith, giving heed to deceiving spirits and doctrines of demons." One of those deceptive doctrines that is roaming the earth is the idea that all religions can coexist. The Higher Committee of Human Fraternity is now constructing a one world religious headquarters in the UAE called the Abrahamic Family House, which will consist of a church, a mosque, and a Jewish temple located all together in a complex at the capital of the UAE. Euronews published a puff piece we're about to show you, celebrating the center with all of the liberal buzzwords polishing this blasphemous campus. Watch.
Hey everyone, I am Daleen Hassan. Welcome to Inspire Middle East. This week we're focusing on the topic of inclusion and tolerance within regional societies, starting with a project in the UAE, which will be a home to a mosque, a church, and a synagogue.
Religious history was made in Abu Dhabi last year when the document on human fraternity was signed by Pope Francis and Dr. Ahmed al-Tayeb, the Grand Imam of Al-Azhar. It called for tolerance, universal peace, and the reconciliation of all faiths. Embodying this agreement, this year construction will start on a project called the Abrahamic Family House on Saadiyat Island. Due for completion in 2022, the site will house a church, a mosque, and a synagogue. Award-winning Ghanaian-British architect Sir David Adjaye, who is spearheading the project, says he was profoundly honoured and humbled to receive the commission. And having identified limestone, timber and bronze as classical materials used in all three religions, Sir David has articulated them differently for each building in the capital.
The project is being monitored closely by Pope Francis and Grand Imam Ahmed Eb Talib of Al-Azhar, who both blessed the new project. Now let's take a look at what the complex will look like when construction finishes in 2022. Following the project's announcement, an archbishop of the Catholic Church who served as the apostolic nuncio to the United States, Carlo Maria Vigano, reacted to the House of Abrahamic Family on November 6, 2019, and he declares that this is a crime against the First Commandment, as it's Pope Francis's initiative to convert the Catholic Church into a global New Age religion through integration into the so-called Abrahamic family of universal brotherhood in Abu Dhabi. Watch.
Vigano responds to another crime against the First Commandment, namely Bergoglio's initiative to convert the Catholic Church into a global New Age religion through integration into the so-called Abrahamic family of universal brotherhood in Abu Dhabi.
Archbishop Vigano compared this project to the Tower of Babel. He said, "The building of the house of the Abrahamic family appears like a Babylesque enterprise designed by the enemies of God." Watch.
What did Carlo Maria Vigano, as the supreme magisterial and pastoral authority, say on this?
Carlo Maria Vigano compared this house to the Tower of Babel. He said, "The building of the house of the Abrahamic family appears like a Babylesque enterprise designed by the enemies of God, of the Catholic Church, and of the only true religion capable of saving man and the whole creation from destruction, both present as well as eternal and definitive. The foundations of this Babylesque house are destined to give way and crumble. They arise precisely where, by the hands of the builders themselves, the only cornerstone is about to be removed, Jesus Christ, Savior and Lord, on whom stands the house of God." First Epistle to Corinthians, chapter 3.
Now closer to home in Washington, D.C., the AbrahamichOuse.org, they announced in a promotional video that was just published 3 days ago, the first ever national multi-faith incubator for social change, a co-living, co-learning, and co-creating space. Watch. Oh, it's so trendy and cute and fluffy. Doesn't it just give you warm feelings? Well, that's how the devil wants you to feel, right? Many Christians are not huge fans of the most recent pope. He's broken a lot of traditions and made many public comments that are unbefitting of such an important figure. And this is one of those recent moves.
We know from the Bible that there is still more to play out and happen with this one world religion, but you have just witnessed its start. From this point forward, it is a matter of level of enforcement, but no longer creation. There is something very important to cover here before we leave. This global government and religion will be woven together to serve the purposes of the Antichrist. While the global government will be the legalistic power, the global religion will be the ideology behind it all. Understanding this ideology will give you greater insight into the absolute satanic core of these two institutions.
Have you ever wondered what's up with the Catholic Church? I mean, they're supposed to be representatives of Christ on earth. So then, why is their history filled with so much death and destruction? And it's not just their history. Even in modern times, hundreds, if not thousands of priests have been caught committing evil acts to the very people they're supposed to be helping. So what's going on here? What if I told you that the Vatican itself does not represent the biblical Jesus Christ, but rather the Prince of Darkness himself? That's right, Lucifer.
The cardinal deacon to say,
Annuncio vobis, gaudium magnum, habemus papam.
announce to you that we have a Father. The world had a Father.
And now all of a sudden he's our Holy Father, and we're pledging him our love and our allegiance and our loyalty and our prayer.
Everyone says there hasn't been anyone like him. That's what's so fascinating. And people of all faiths want to touch him.
Yeah. Well, that's an appeal too.
Yeah.
You know, we call him the Holy Father.
Holy Father, please forgive me.
Holy Father.
You'll hear that title used quite often. This man, Bergoglio, Francis the Talking Pope, his predecessors, John Paul II, Pope Benedict, John Paul I, Pope Paul, Pope John the 23rd, Pope Pius.
You can go all the way back, folks. I'm talking centuries.
These men are replacement gods. And these men have taken upon themselves the title of Holy Father.
He wears the titles of God. He wears the title Holy Father, head of the church. He never died for the church, but he stole that title from Christ.
Jesus said, "And call no man your father upon the earth, for one is your Father which is in heaven." Yet the popes took to themselves the name Holy Father, along with all claims of authority that might be assumed by such a title. Pope Innocent III, who fathered the Inquisition, said, "The Pope holdeth place on earth, not simply of a man, but of the true God." Meanwhile, Pope Nicholas said of himself, "I am in all and above all, so that God himself and I, the Vicar of God, hath both one consistory, and I am able to do almost all that God can do. I then, being above all, seem by this reason to be above all gods." Nicholas even claimed that the popes had the power to change the gospel itself, saying, "Wherefore, no marvel, if it be in my power to dispense with all things, yea, with the precepts of Christ." But in the Bible, Jesus says, "Behold, I have set before thee an open door, and no man can shut it, and no man openeth." The Apostle Paul warned that, "If any man or an angel from heaven preach any other gospel unto you, let him be accursed." Yet despite these biblical warnings, the popes repeatedly claimed they were equal to and above God, and were even called by Catholics our Lord God, the Pope. The Lateran Council, while addressing Pope Julius II, said to him, "Take care that we lose not that salvation, that life and breath which thou hast given us, for thou art shepherd, thou art physician, thou art governor, thou art husbandman, Thou finally art another God on earth. In the 19th century, Cardinal Giuseppe Sarto, who would later become Pope Pius X, declared, "The Pope is not simply the representative of Jesus Christ. On the contrary, he is Jesus Christ himself, under the veil of the flesh." Does the Pope speak? It is Jesus Christ who is speaking. Hence, when anyone speaks of the Pope, it is not necessary to examine, but to obey. Jesus said of himself, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father but by me." Yet Pope Pius IX blasphemously declared, "I alone am the successor of the apostles, the vicar of Jesus Christ. I am the way, the truth, and the life." The popes have not only made claims to be God, but have insisted that salvation itself depends directly upon obedience to them. Pope Boniface VIII said, "We declare, say, define, and pronounce that it is absolutely necessary for the salvation of every human creature to be subject to the Roman Pontiff." Pope Clement VI said, "No man outside obedience to the Pope of Rome can ultimately be saved. All who have raised themselves against the faith of the Roman Church and died in final impenitence have been damned and gone down to hell." Even in modern times, Pope John the 23rd in 1958 declared, "Into this fold of Jesus Christ no man may enter unless he be led by the sovereign pontiff, and only if they be united to him can men be saved." In 1984, Pope John Paul II was quoted as saying, "Don't go to God for forgiveness of sins. Come to me." The quote was based on a Los Angeles Times article which reported, rebutting a belief widely shared by Protestants and a growing number of Roman Catholics, Pope John Paul II dismissed the widespread idea that one can obtain forgiveness directly from God. Furthermore, according to traditional Catholicism, obedience to the papacy is said to be required, no matter how dreadful the Pope might be. Catherine of Siena, one of the patron saints of Italy, whose mummified head is still preserved in Rome today, said, "Even if the Pope were Satan incarnate, we ought not to raise up our heads against him, but calmly lie down to rest in his bosom. He who rebels against our Father is condemned to death. For that which we do to him, we do to Christ. We honor Christ if we honor the Pope." This official Vatican portrait of the current Pope. It is called "The Truth, the Way, and the Life," portrait of His Holiness, Pope Benedict XVI. But can this really mean that in the modern world there are some who still believe the Pope to be equal to Christ and God?
Mr. President, final question.
Yes, sir.
You said famously, when you looked into Vladimir Putin's eyes, you saw his soul.
Yeah.
When you look into Benedict XVI's eyes, what do you see?
God.
Good way to end the interview.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. My pleasure.
We want to show you some extraordinary pictures which came to us from the Vatican on what was, of course, an extraordinary day. Within hours of Pope Benedict announcing that he was to resign, take a look at this. Lightning struck St. Peter's Basilica. You can see it again now in slow motion.
Lightning struck St. Peter's Basilica twice immediately following the resignation of Pope Benedict XVI. Now, some people might not make anything of that, but lightning is something in sacred literature that almost always carries spiritual connotation. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's evil, like when Jesus referred to Satan as falling like lightning. And I can't help but think that the timing of 2 lightning bolts on this particular building, St. Peter's Basilica, at the Vatican, at the exact time following Benedict's resignation, I felt that it was mathematically improbable of chance. First, because 2 bolts, I don't, again, what do you make of coincidence and numerology? But we know that in sacred text and in Scripture, these kind of things would be interpreted as signs and omens.
At the start of Lent last year, Jorge Mario Bergoglio was just a face in the crowd. Today, Pope Francis is the most talked about person on the World Wide Web.
With days until the Holy Father makes his first ever visit to the U.S., his popularity has taken off.
We were able to walk right up to the stage yesterday, which is literally set at this point. You saw that there are thousands of seats already lined up as well. As you can imagine,
hundreds of thousands of people turned out to see and hear Pope Francis today.
It was a mammoth effort. Philadelphia transformed into an outdoor cathedral.
It's like being at the Super Bowl.
His style was different almost immediately. The thousands before him as he bowed and said,
"Vi chiedo che voi."
Pray for me.
And suddenly there was a connection with people. That set the tone for this papacy.
More people can actually relate to him.
Absolutely. And bring more people into the church.
More of a user-friendly pope.
Yes.
That's what we need right now.
We've needed for a while a renewed image, a renewed face of the church, and Pope Francis is giving it to us.
The one man who is winning in every poll you look at, the Pope.
His Twitter account, @Pontifex, ranks in the top 5 most searched words on the internet.
Take a look. Look who's got his very own rookie baseball card, Pope Francis.
Pope is even showing up on pizza boxes. Every trip he takes, Pope Francis has been met by adoring masses of the faithful.
This week, he's been called a Catholic rock star.
He's kind of a rock star. Times Person of the Year, the cover of Rolling Stone. Now there's even a Francis fanzine.
He's captured the imagination not just of the world's 1.2 billion Catholics, but the world itself.
I get it on the streets. I mean, everybody from the bartender to the cab driver telling me, Cardinal Dolan, we love this guy.
He's been called the People's Pope.
It's the Pope!
Viva il Papa! Viva la Chiesa Cattolica!
The papacy is saying, I'm a follower of so-and-so. You see people going out and giving the rock star treatment and fawning and fainting and screaming and everything when a pope goes by. I mean, he's just a man.
Humility has made the former Jorge Bergoglio a star far beyond the Catholic Church,
and became one of the most popular religious leaders of our time.
You can't be a Catholic without acknowledging Pope Francis as the representative of God on earth.
Chi ritiene di poter avere un rapporto personale, diretto, immediato con Gesù Cristo, al di fuori della comunione e della meditazione della Chiesa. Sono tentazioni pericolose, sono tentazioni dannose, sono, come diceva il grande Paolo VI, dicotomie assurde.
Pope Francis has worked tirelessly toward a new world religion in which all denominations are brought together as one. If you look at Francis's outreach over the past 3 years, and specifically in 2016, you'll find somebody who has openly condemned evangelical Christianity and the belief that you must have a personal relationship with Jesus. He has openly warned that this belief is dangerous. He has also equated the spread of the gospel under evangelical Christianity to jihadism. In the meantime, he has done quite a bit of outreach to every other religion in the entire world. Why is this happening? The extent of Francis's outreach to other denominations in 2016 alone has been mind-boggling. In February, Francis held an emergency meeting with Patriarch Kirill of Russia for the first time since the 1054 schism. Kyril then went directly to Antarctica, where he performed a bizarre religious ceremony consecrating the land and water surrounding the continent. Francis has also done outreach to Patriarch Bartholomew of Turkey, in which both leaders voiced support for the migrant crisis and called for more migrants to enter Europe. In May, Francis met with Al-Azhar of Egypt, who is the head of Sunni Islam. In January, Francis became the third pontiff ever to visit Rome's major synagogue. He has also hosted Jewish religious and political leaders at the Vatican. In June, Francis outreached to the Armenians. In July, Pope Francis visited Poland and told all of the young people in the audience to, quote, believe in a new humanity.
¿Cuál, María? Una maestra de vida espiritual. O então, una santinha a quem se recorre para obter favores abaixo.
The Pope sat before the image of the Virgin and recited the prayer that is most notably known in Fatima, the Rosary.
She's called the United Nations International Pilgrim Statue of Fatima and travels around the world.
I've seen people who break down in tears as soon as they look at the face.
The faithful believe they're seeing the face of Jesus' beloved Mother Mary.
The theologians say it's called the aura of the Mother of God around it. That means the Mother of God's presence is with that image in such a way that you can look at other images of Our Lady and get your fill.
It is one of, they can say, the 4 original statues made under the guidance of Sister Lucia, the oldest of the 3 children.
The 3 children, Lucia, Jacinta, and Francisco, said they saw an apparition of Mary while herding sheep near the village of Fatima, Portugal, May 13, 1917, and she revealed 3 secrets to them, including the prediction of World Wars I and II. And this is the face Lucia described.
When you're looking at it, you feel her presence. You can get your fill at looking at other beautiful images, but you cannot get your fill at looking at this. You just want to look, and look again.
Just a Mary shrine here, Mary shrine there, Mary shrine here, everywhere.
Why do people praise and worship Mary, whom Jesus was born of? A famous Catholic bishop and writer, Alphonsus Liguori, explained in his writings that it is far effective to pray to Mary than to Christ.
In the Franciscan Chronicles, it is related that Brother Leo once saw a red ladder, on the summit of which was Jesus Christ, and a white one on top of which was his most holy mother. And he saw some who tried to ascend the red ladder, and they mounted a few steps and fell. They tried again and again fell. They were then advised to go and try the white ladder, and by that one they easily ascended. For our Blessed Lady stretched out her hand and helped them, so they got safely to heaven.
The story, which was made by the exuberant imagination, sounded plausible. Although it was a man-made story, Pope Gregory XVI canonized Liguori as a saint, and Pope Pius IX declared him a doctor of the Catholic Church. Now Catholics are taught that it is better to pray to Mary, who is merciful and understands us.
We must never go to our Lord Jesus except through Mary, using her intercession and good standing with Him. We must never be without her when praying to Jesus.
The plausible logic that Jesus cannot refuse Mary's request because she is his mother is shown well even through the image of Mary and baby Jesus. In most cases, Jesus is nested in Mary's arms as a baby. This downgrades Jesus to a little baby who is always dependent on Mary and lets people think that he can do nothing without Mary. They call Mary the Mother of God, which implies that she is above God. Mary as a female is merely a creation who was chosen to conceive Jesus. Mary worship of the Catholic Church reminds us of the mother-child worship of ancient Babylon. Just as Semiramis artfully spread the mother-child worship throughout Babylon when she ruled it over instead of her son Tammuz, the Catholic Church now makes people worship Mary, not God, by accepting the mother-child worship from Babylon.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is...
There is no trace of suffering or even joy in this Mary's face. But it is not the alabaster emptiness of her gaze these people see as they pray. It is the Mary whose pain at the loss of her son, Jesus Christ, resembles their own.
Mary's role for us as Christians is humanizing. It's somebody that we can relate to.
20% of all Roman Catholic places of worship in the United States, nearly 4,000, are named for Mary.
Shortly after the Council of Ephesus, which was in 431, when they declared her to be the Theotokos, the God-bearer, Mother of God. And then everything changes, and she starts to appear enthroned with a child on her lap, with angels and saints around her. That is when she becomes important.
By the Middle Ages and Renaissance, paintings of Mary could be read for symbols of her holiness.
Her outer mantle is blue, and underneath she usually, not always, has red robes.
She wears a dark blue coat, and she stands on the half moon. She is the mother of all gods.
So, the ancient religion of Babylon, they all have one thing in common: the sacred feminine. The sacred feminine. The sacred feminine. Ishtar the Babylonians, Tyre the Buddhism, Fatima of Muhammad, Sophia the Gnostics, Shekinah to the Kabbalist Jew, Mary to the Catholic, and Shakti to the Hindu. These all have one thing in common: the sacred feminine. And the sacred feminine is going to take you back to the source of light, because the light that resides in that place that Plato talked about, you need a path to get back to that light. Listen, this is important. She is the one to take you to that light. Now, I'm going to give you a guess. Tell me this morning, who do you think that light is? You remember what this subject's all about? Lucifer. He's the light bearer.
There's a wind blowing through this church today.
And that wind comes from Lucifer.
Yes, it is. That has brought him into the house, and he's now in power. No doubt about it, Lucifer is the prince, and he has now a place within the central citadel of the church.
A lot of priests like to perform themselves the satanic masses around Rome, and they perform them in the area where usually the Pope goes on holiday, near Castel Gandolfo, in the area where you have also Lake Nemi, in those forests around there. They perform these black masses, and there is a Catholic priest who act as a satanic priest, because the moment in which they act as satanic priest is the moment in which they can really liberate themselves of other perversions. They can do drugs, they can go with women, with men, with everything, and they can do all kinds of things. So the sex cults are very powerful. Like, for example, CNN is showing that at the terminal station there is a lot of prostitution from minors, from young kids. Well, there was a scandal here in Italy at a certain point in 2013, I think it was June 2013, it went on the news for 2 days, then it was erased. They go into this My Bar and in these places around the Termini station to pick up these young kids. And then they used to have these ambulances, these fake ambulances parked in front of Termini station, and they used to pick up these young Romanian kids, 14-year-old kids, and bring them directly into the Vatican.
As an exorcist, when you do exorcisms, minor and major, the demons constantly taunt you with the condition of the church. They say, well, we're in St. Peter's. We can talk to whom we like. We have representatives sitting beside your Pope every day. What are you talking about? We are legit. I'm quoting demons now. This is what is said to you. How dare you? And our prince has been enthroned, installed. And you're still against us? What are you trying to persecute us for?
And so we have to understand that there is a Luciferian faction, a very strong Luciferian faction within the Holy See, not exclusive to the Holy See. This is a dark brotherhood that exists. These are the mystery adepts that have existed. They're following a lineage that goes back hundreds of years. Actually, that goes back to the Tower of Babel.
Once upon a time, a long time ago, there lived a man named Nimrod. Nimrod was the great-grandson of Noah. He was the most popular man on the earth at the time. Matter of fact, he was the king of the then-known world. He was responsible for building the cities of Babel, and the Tower of Babel, and the city of Nineveh, amongst others. Well, all that being aside, Nimrod, no doubt, had tremendous influence among the people that he was with. And what happened was he had this uncanny reputation of strength. He created great armies. And he was the ruler of the then-known world right after the flood. He was full of idolatry and covetousness, drunkenness, and rebelliousness towards God. And he had a phenomenal ability to deceive. Matter of fact, I suppose he was much like, I guess, an early politician 4,000 years ago. But Nimrod married a woman named Semiramis. Now, Semiramis and Nimrod became basically king and queen of the then-known world. Well, at some point, Nimrod dies, and he became deified. He was the very first person that was ever deified on planet Earth, and they made him the sun god, which ended up being Baal. The word Baal in your scriptures can be traced back to Nimrod, so it's an interesting reality of history. When you see Baal and Ashtaroth, you're ended up coming all the way back to this story of Nimrod and Semiramis. And so Baal is now ruling the universe as the sun god, and somehow, luck has it, through the Babylonian legend, that Semiramis gets pregnant by the rays of the sun of her deceased husband, Nimrod. And she gives birth to a young baby boy named Tammuz.
Semiramis, Nimrod's wife, insisted that Nimrod became the sun god. She cut Nimrod's dead body into pieces and sent them to each tribe of Babylon. People regarded the place where a part of Nimrod was buried as sacred. She also claimed that Nimrod was reincarnated as her son. As Semiramis ruled over Babylon in place of her young son Tammuz, she maneuvered people into worshiping her. Monuments of Semiramis carrying her child Tammuz in her arms were set up all over Babylon, along with various images symbolizing the sun god. The sun worship and the mother-child worship, which was a scheme devised by Semiramis, put down roots as a religion of Babylon. Idolatry stemmed from Babylon, spread to many countries after the Tower of Babel collapsed. It is because when the Babylonians were scattered over the whole world, they brought the sun worship and the mother-child worship. The sun worship and the mother-child worship were assimilated into the cultures and religions of many countries, and they came to have various forms and names. Nimrod, the sun god, was known as Mithra in Persia, Sol in Rome, Ra or Horus in Egypt, and Apollo in Greece. Semiramis and Tammuz, who were the start of the mother-child worship, was called Isis and Horus, Venus and Dionysus, Diana and Attis, and Astaroth and Tammuz, respectively. Besides these, the image of goddess, who is holding a baby in her arms, was venerated in many countries of the world. If so, was the mother-child worship the creature of an age, which was especially welcomed only in Babylon? Surprisingly, the mother-child worship of Babylon has been passed down through the thousands of years and still exists today. In Vatican of Rome, we can find the mother-child worship in its original state.
Take some time to absorb this and what it means exactly. Maybe rewatch this podcast. In your life, when you've heard prophecy spoken of, you've always heard about the Antichrist, the one world government, the mark, the third temple, the one world religion, among things. This may not be how you expected things to happen. I know I'm guilty of that myself. In my mind, I've pictured all this stuff happening after the rapture. But it is imperative that you jettison your expectations and look at what is actually happening. The Bible tells us that during tribulation, there will be a one world religion. It is now here. I've said this before. We are measuring our time in months and weeks. I don't know how many, but we are truly and for real finally here. At this point, there is nothing more important than not only preparing yourself for the rapture, but moreover using every second you have to serve Jesus and to witness to others. The rapture is now directly in front of us. It is no longer on the horizon. We may yet still see the one world government take form, or the global economy with the collapsing of America, or the war of Gog and Magog. I do not know. What I do know is events are now unfolding rapidly, and we have very little time remaining before the King comes to gather us.